at least on opening night, if healthy, the starting lineup will most likely look like this. You'll have Naithan George at point guard, JJ Starling at the 2, Nate Kings, the Oregon State transfer, at the 3. 4 will be Donnie Freeman, and at the 5 will be William Kyle. But Neil, we left off the podcast by stating there are many other possible lineup combinations. So this is very open-ended here. What are some other possible starting lineup combinations that you could see throughout the season?
Okay, so I guess for me, to answer that question, I think about who are the likeliest candidates to be the first guys off the bench. So let's see if we're in agreement about this. I have 4 guys that I think are most likely in no particular order: Tyler Betsy, Anthony, White, and Fennell.
I'm not going to count Ibrahim Soare because we know he's the backup center. So if they were to, let's say, not be impressed with William Kyle and they want to make a change and they just want to go strictly center by center, I would then say Soare. But in terms of excluding the center spot, you're right.
Because I don't think Womack's going to play a lot. Diawara is obviously a more developmental guy, and Bryce Zafir spot.
I don't think he's going to play a lot either.
Yeah. So in terms of starting lineup, though, I feel like my first thing would be Betsy in there. And it's interesting because he's like, what, 6'8", 6'9". He's been getting rave reviews by other players in terms of his practicing, his defense, his shooting, and all that stuff. He's obviously a guy that the staff knows well because they recruited him, and when he was a prep recruit at St. Thomas More in Connecticut, I could see him at either the 3 or the 4. So maybe he's at the 3 and you've still got Donnie at the 4. Or maybe he's at the 4 and you've got Donnie or Sadiq at the 5. I don't know. Kiyan Anthony, he's 6'5", so I could see him at the 2 or the 3. Is he going to start it all? I mean, if, as we talked about on your last time when you had me on, if Kiyan comes, and he, to his credit, has evolved beyond just being a long-range shooter. And Autry has said that. And I think he could be surprising in a positive way in terms of defense, rebounding, scoring at all 3 levels. But, he's a freshman, just like, Fennell and White. But could he get some time at the 3? I don't necessarily see him starting at the 2 because Starling is starting. Did I say that right? Starling is starting.
Yes, you did.
Unless he's injured, knock on wood. He would really have to be struggling for that. He's a senior. He's a captain. Him and George are starting unless there's some, catastrophic situation. But maybe Anthony could start at the wing. If Nate Kings is struggling from deep and Kiyan's hitting, it's tough though. Kings is a redshirt senior. Kiyan is a true freshman. So I think the most realistic would be Betsy, or maybe even Sadiq White if they want to do a small ball lineup, because White has been getting rave reviews for his leadership as a freshman, but he was one of the top defenders in the 2025 class. And like we've talked about, he is a true freshman, but he played in the EYBL Scholastic last year for IMG against some heavyweight competition. It's not college competition, but he might be more ready than other guys based on who he played for and who he played against. So that would probably be my most likely option other than Betsy.
I think that Sadiq would be the number 1 option. Yeah. And I think it's because of the center spot and where it's at right now. The center spot, when you look at the starting lineup, is the big question mark in the starting lineup. Absolutely. I think we can all pretty much agree on that, ladies and gentlemen. Fair. I mean, if you're listening and watching right now and you disagree, feel free to comment in the comment section below, because I'm pretty confident in Nate George. I know what JJ Starling is. I know what Donnie Freeman at least was as a freshman. Whether or not he gets better or not, I know that he is a capable starting 4. And Nate Kings, unless he's not shooting, he's going to be in the starting lineup as your starting 3.
I would assume so.
So if the 5 is your question and it is answered in negative fashion, meaning you're not getting good production from William Kyle. You're not getting the production you want from Ibrahim Soare if you want to make that change. Well, what could Syracuse do? You mentioned Tyler Betsy. They could play him. Of course they can. The other thing that they could do is play Sadiq White. You would play Sadiq at the 4, and you would have Donnie play at the 5. And I know that that's not ideal. Like, I recognize that I don't want Donnie Freeman at the 5, but I'm just trying to come up with solutions here because if the center position does falter and it's not very good and it's similar to what it was a couple of years ago, Naheem McLeod wasn't great, but he was the starting center. And when he went down, Syracuse had no other option other than to play Malik Brown out of position, which he did his best at, and he was fantastic at.
He was good.
Yeah, he was good. I think Syracuse could use Malik Brown this year.
Right. Senior Duke. Yeah.
But with Sadiq White, he's a great defender, which is something that Syracuse, at least on paper, lacks. They don't have a lot of great defenders. Sadiq White seems to be like he's going to be a great defender. If he has a little bit of offensive game to him and the center position does falter, he's going to be in the starting lineup. Like, it's just going to happen. They're going to have to. They're going to have to play him a ton. And we talked about this in the last podcast we did.
Yeah.
I think Sadiq, out of all the freshmen, is the most likely to see the most time. Because you look at where he is at right now and the players that are around him.
And also his position group. Yeah.
And it's his position group.
Yeah.
Yes. His technically his power forward ahead of him is Donnie Freeman. But the center spot is not necessarily the strong suit of the team.
Right.
Sadiq might also be able to play the 3 as well, which we can agree is probably the second worst position group in the starting lineup right now. No disrespect to Nate Kings, but I don't think he's better than George, Starling, or Donnie.
Yeah.
So
and that's a good problem to have if the second weakest spot is the 3 with like Nate Kings and potentially Kiyan there or Betsy there. My question to you is, and I agree with everything you're saying, but who do you think in a small ball lineup would be more likely to play the 5, Donnie or Sadiq? You think Donnie because he's older, he's a more veteran, is he maybe a little taller?
He's
but
taller.
I think Sadiq could be a better defender.
He already is a better defender.
I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter when if you're not playing zone. It's only the 4 versus 5 in terms of who you're guarding in a man defense, and then obviously certainly schemes on offense. But they're kind of interchangeable, those two guys. I'm just curious who you thought might play more at center.
I think Donnie because of his size. He's a little bit bigger.
He's a
little bit more muscle at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's to be expected. He's entering his sophomore year. Sadiq White's coming out right now as a freshman. So I think he would be more likely. And it also makes sense because Donnie has already been in college basketball for a year.
Right.
He's more experienced. Sadiq is still developing as a freshman. You want to play him out of position right away? Like, I don't think that's the best.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I would rather, for his development's sake, play the position that he is used to. If going forward he can show that he can maybe play the center as well, then I'm fine with it. Because at the end of the day, I said this throughout the offseason, and I think we were in agreement on it. Like, we all watched Houston go to the final, and they didn't have anyone in their lineup that was 6'9" or above.
Yep.
Like, it's not just about you being 6'11" or you being 7 feet. Like, sure, I would love a great 7 foot traditional center.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, those guys, we talked about this in the offseason, those guys are extremely expensive in the portal. They just are.
Centers and point guards. Yeah.
Everyone wants them.
Yeah.
So I would rather the better player. Yeah. Like, I just want the better player at this point. Yeah. Like, I'm not focused on getting the 7 foot center when the point guard at Nate George is going to be better and he's going to cost you the same amount of money.
Yeah.
Now, ideally, the solution is you find enough money to get both.
You get both, right?
I think you get the point where when you have a budget, you have to make certain decisions. And I would rather what they did, which is just get the better player in Nate George, than, all right, we'll get a center and kind of do what they did last year, which is you get Eddie Lampkin. He's all right. He's okay. But you could have done better and gotten more out of your money if you had maybe spent on a different position and you sort of sacrifice the center spot and you take a look at Houston and you say, how were they able to get to the final with nobody above 6'9"? And if you're Syracuse, it's not about can you get to the final, it's can you get to the NCAA tournament in that way? And we'll figure it out from there.
100% agree. And for me, getting to the NCAA tournament requires better defense. And this is a stupid, obvious point, but winning more games. And winning more games to me involves better defense, credible 3-point shooting, cutting down on turnovers and all that. And I think they hit a home run with Nate George. And if the center spot, whether it's a tandem of Soiree and Kyle, whether it's Donnie sometimes or whoever, as long as it's like serviceable, not like a huge liability, but serviceable, they have really good guards. I think they have a really good wing in Nate Kings. And I think they have really good forwards who maybe can play some hybrid center. And so if the defense is better, I don't think scoring is going to be an issue. We'll see about 3-point shooting. And they don't get crushed in terms of the turnover battle, though I think they can win more games. And I agree with you. And I don't know, other than hearing anecdotally, I think Syracuse had more NIL money to spend this offseason, and they obviously retained their 2 best players. But I don't know. I don't have heavy intel, who they were heavy on from a center spot, beyond Kyle and Swari and all that. But they obviously hit a home run with George. And if you can't get both, you go with the best option at the 1 spot, and then you try and get serviceable guys at the 5.